Rob Kendall, along with Tyler Bless, the head coach of the Plainfield Quakers. Coach, football season is back. How are you?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Doing great. All right, so we touched base about a month ago, and obviously we were in the throes of summer ball, getting the team ready. Since we last talked several weeks ago, how do you feel the team has progressed as we head towards week one?
Yeah, I think the last time we spoke was like middle of July. Finished our summer on a high note. Had a couple more scrimmages like we talked about the last time, and then for the first time in a long time, we started school before we started official practices. So kind of like had a week of conditioning and kind of get everything squared away on the school end, and then football officially started on August 4th, and we just wrapped up our 2 weeks of fall camp, so to say, and had our scrimmage against Tri-West last Friday, and now we're into game week. So it's here, and we're all really excited to get it going.
Tell us a little bit about what those kind of 3, 4 weeks since we last talked are like. Obviously, I would assume you're still shoring up some people at some positions, but I would think also too you're finding out who exactly can do what, how far can you push certain players, what this team is going to look like.
Yeah, I mean the last week of summer, really kind of got those guys to lift and to do some conditioning, and that was more to kind of just keep sharpening our sword, but also get our body healthy for fall camp. Once fall camp turned around on August 4th, with the rules that the IHSA gives us, you kind of start light and you work your way into full pads. But at that point, we're into situations of football, whether it's backed up, whether it's red zone. We'll play some overtime rules. We'll do a 2-minute drill. We're kind of getting fully into our special teams and those reps and getting guys in the correct spots and installing certain situations of that. So it keeps going, and you keep finding out, depth wise, what you have and where guys need to go. You try to stay as healthy as possible. You try to, maybe get a few tackling segments in, but it's a very quick whistle because you want to, keep your guys healthy. But I think for the most part, our kids have really understood and understand our expectations of what we want our practices to look like and how we go about those things. We're not out there for 3 hours anymore, like, the old days, but, we try to be very efficient with our plan from the coaching end of it. And then once we're on the field, it's, it moves accordingly, but we're also doing things that, football requires and that I think winning requires. So to get our kids to be in those situations early in August can only help us, come games here in the next following weeks.
Now, very important before we get to the team, you did decide to keep the mustache. Are we going to keep that throughout the season? What went into that very important decision?
There's been no decision on it. It's just been what we've done. I think if we win, we'll keep it. If we lose it, we'll get rid of it and try something else.
All right. So if you were to, as you enter the 2025 season, you would say this, let's just start on the offensive side of the ball. The strength of our offense is fill in the blank.
Yeah, I think that's a wide answer. We're very blessed to have our running back. Luke Starnes, he's a 3-year starter. He's got a chance of being a really, great running back in Plainfield football history. He's healthy. He's one of our captains. His backup, or his number 2, is Corin McGill, who's had a really nice offseason and fall camp. And then we're going to put some, of that stuff on our quarterback. He's a returner. He's a junior. He's had a really good offseason of getting stronger, going to camps, seeing some guys and throwing the football around. Feel like he has made progress in what we want to do as an offense and not just turn around and hand it off like we did last year. So those 2 guys are important, but I think it begins and ends with, how healthy and how effective our offensive line can be. Those front 5 guys, are solid. We got to keep those guys healthy. We got to keep moving in the right direction. We got to keep the schematics, similar. We don't need to change a whole lot of things from year to year on what we want to run. But we certainly need to make progress every week for those, for that entire unit to be successful and efficient. We've got tight end back, we've got some receivers back, we've got some receivers that are going to be new to us, but are really good playmakers. So I don't know if there's one singular answer on who, but it's going to be a combination of making sure that all 11 are doing their own job, so that we're getting first downs, we're scoring touchdowns, and we're getting our best defense back on the field after a long offensive drive.
Last year, you guys were pretty direct. They even said it in some of the coaches' shows. Look, we're going to run the ball. We're going to run right at you, and we're going to dare you to try to stop us. Now that your quarterback is a year older, are you going to still sort of enter the season with that same approach? Or are you going to say, hey, let's see what this guy can do? And obviously, it's all about building up for week 10 and beyond.
Yeah, really going back to spring ball and even into our summer workouts, we've tried to be more balanced. We've tried to been able to get into some formations that we were not in last year. Going off of Friday's scrimmage against Tri-West, I think we had 19 passes and 18 runs. So I can't promise that it's going to be like that every Friday night. Games are different and situations occur, but I would like to try to be as balanced of an offensive unit as possible. I think that helps us spread the football around. It helps us in the run game. It opens some lanes in the passing game. So, again, for that to happen, we've got to be able to protect our quarterback, and that starts up front with our 5 offensive linemen and our tight end.
Let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. Same question. The strength of our defense is blank.
Yeah, I think this one's a little bit more clear. Our defensive line is really good. There's times where our offensive line struggles to block them in practices. So, there's a couple of guys in that room that are really, really good football players, and I expect them to have a great year. I know our defensive staff expects the same thing, but if we want to stop the run and if we want to say that, we actually need to do it. And I think last year we were able to. I think this year would be no different. But that defensive line is got veteran guys. It's got some newcomers that have had a nice, really fall camp that are getting their kind of opportunity. But then as it goes farther back into the second level, I mean, we've got returners at inside linebacker with Mason Mantooth and Jake Dellinger. Tyler Simics, our outside linebacker, who's a returning starter and again, one of our captains for this year. So it's not that the D-line is so good and everything else on defense is not. I mean, it kind of starts with our D-line, and then it starts to work backwards to, the inside linebackers are solid, and the secondary, again, has guys that played football for us, and Tayshawn Callahan, Grayson Harden. So Ty White's another one. All those guys have experienced what a Friday night football game looks like. So I don't think there's a big discrepancy of the defensive line to the linebackers to the defensive backs, but I think it really starts and ends with that defensive line. If we can get off the ball and we can stop that surge of an offensive lineman and disrupt some timing for the quarterback of whoever we're playing that week, or making sure we're keeping edges for our outside linebackers to make plays. So I'm excited to see that unit play, but I'm also excited for our offensive line to go against somebody else because it's been stressful at times.
Let's thank our sponsors that make our Plainfield football broadcast possible, both here on the coaches show as well as our broadcast on Friday night. Frigid Frog, New Wave Solutions, Gunnell Financial, Crone Family Construction, Adrenaline Fundraising, Crest Point Real Estate, Coach P, Chris Pearson, Sell with Jones, the Stewart Home Group, Remax Centerstone, Julia Burbridge, Flora Brothers Painting, I-70 Wrecker Service and Garage, Units Moving and Portable Storage, Haynes Roofing and Remodeling LLC, Headquarters Barbershop, Edward Jones, Chris Hoskins, Ellison Associates, BGW Construction, and Legacy Motorsports. All right, Coach, you mentioned this, which is we're ready to kind of hit somebody else. We're ready to go at somebody other than our own guys because it's been stressful. Talk about that balancing act. I know you talked about it a little bit earlier, but in detail, how do you manage that of trying to get quote unquote game style reps in, but also making sure we don't start week one with somebody on the disabled list?
Yeah, I mean, there's been segments really throughout the whole summer and even into fall camp where we do good on good. It's our one offense versus our one defense, and whether that's a live with a quick whistle or a thud period, I mean that's all been discussed with our coaching staff and our players beforehand. But I think what we've tried to tell our kids, at least, and I think that they're buying in and understanding, is that like iron sharpens iron, and we've got to be able to have some segments in practice where it's our one offense versus our one defense, and we need to compete and we need to get after it. And one of those sides is going to win. It gets competitive. There's times where I get competitive and our defensive staff gets competitive, but I think that's football and that's athletics. And at the end of the practice or into that segment, I try to tell myself and try to tell our team that, hey, we're all on the same team. We're all going in the same locker room doors. We're all going to be rooting for each other on a Friday night. But if we can understand that, our ones versus our ones needs to happen for us to be a better football team. The kids have bought into it. The kids understand it now. Not every period is like that. There's times where we need to maybe slow some things down and really rep the mechanics or the fundamentals of what we're trying to install that day. And it might be us versus a scout unit. It might be us versus air. It might be us versus upside down trash cans. So there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. I don't think it has to be tackle football anymore for 90 minutes like it was, maybe 25 years ago. But I think there are times where you can get a 5-minute, a 10-minute period where, okay, we're going to get after it and we're going to go here and we're going to try to make it game-like as much as possible.
Before we get to week one, big road game coming up, obviously I did this at Avon with your dad for years, and I was always amazed. Your dad did what I call no sell, right? Like he could have outstanding team. They could win a game 50-0. You'd call him to do coach's show on Monday to be like, well, there's some things we could have done better. Oh, this really wasn't up to my satisfaction. It's like, coach, you won 50-0. How do you handle kids now? Like because obviously society has changed, the game has changed. In terms of reinforcement, like how do you handle kids? How do you motivate kids? Talk about getting kids ready to play week in and week out.
Yeah, I think it's always a good challenge, regardless of what decade we're in or what's going on in society or social media. I think, the big thing that we try to tell our kids is that let's go win the game on Monday in practice, on Tuesday in practice, and Wednesday and Thursday, and in our meetings and in our lifting. And like, we're not just going to go win it on Friday night and just be better than the other team. We're not really built that way. I don't want to be built that way, but I think we've got to try to break it down day by day of like, hey, we've got, 100 minutes in this practice. Let's find 2% or 3% of something to get better at, so that by the time we get to 7:00 on Friday, we are rolling and ready to go. So I think the motivation for the kids is on our end of things, and at our school is, I think I say this weekly, but we've got about a little over 1,800 students at Plainfield. Not all those are males, but we've got about 75 to 85 kids on our football team. So it's not it's a popular sport. It's a popular club, if you want to say, at Plainfield, but not every male at Plainfield High School is playing football. So like the kids that are motivated are the kids that are in our football building day after day and are doing hard things and are straining their bodies and straining their minds and putting themselves in hard situations. But to me, those guys are becoming young men because of what football is giving them or teaching them. So I think what motivates our kids is that they're unique in their own way, but they're also wanting to do something that hasn't been done here in a long time. And that's just to be consistent and win championships and go at this thing with, full mind, body, and spirit of like, I'm going to be the best Plainfield football team that I could possibly be. But to do that, I have to show up every day, and I've got to take coaching, and I got to bust my butt, and I got to, be accountable to my teammates and my team. So it's a really long answer, but that's the answer that I think I'm going to give you.
We love long answers. Less questions I got to ask. Perfect. Wonderful. All right. So Friday night, we're getting on the bus. We're going halfway across the state, basically. We're going to the state line over there in Terre Haute. We open the season at Terre Haute South. What do the Braves bring to the table?
Yeah, this is the third time that we're going to play Terre Haute South in an opener. It's at their place. They have a new head coach. Their coach last year, Coach Tim Herron, retired from football. He's now the principal at the high school. They were able to hire Greg Barrett, who was the South Vermilion head coach for a very long time. Coach Barrett's done a phenomenal job of, at all of his staffs kind of on that western side of Indiana. But they are going to bring a different kind of offensive set than what we've seen probably the last 2 years. They're going to throw it around. They're playing 2 quarterbacks right now. They've got some returners from the receiving core last year that are really solid players. They've got some size up front on the offensive line. So on that end, we've got to have a really good week of practice with our defense. We've got to, again, set an edge. We've got to make sure we're tight in our coverages and understanding the different formations that they're going to give us and how they're going to try to maybe hide a tight end at tackle. So we've got to be really locked in. The defensive side of stuff, it looks to be similar in terms of scheme from the last, 2 years. So that's it's not a wholesale change of the program, but you can definitely tell that there's excitement going on over there. They had a jamboree with some other teams in the Wabash Valley on Friday. So we've got a work cut out for us, but again, it's breaking it day by day, and we need to have a really good Monday practice. We need to have a very sharp Tuesday, Wednesday work day, more mental than physical on Thursday, and then we got to be ready to go to a place that's different. It's a little bit longer bus ride. It's a grass field, which is almost uncommon in Central Indiana now. But those are all things that we have no control over. So we've got to have great, consistent attitude and effort and make sure that we're controlling the things that we can control. And obviously the goal is to go 1-0, and for us to do that, our focus is going to be more on what we do and how we handle our business and what we do, each day from here until Friday. But they're a good football team. They've got really good athletes. They got quarterbacks that can throw the ball around. So they got good tacklers on defense that are returners. We've seen them on film before. So it's a good challenge. I'm excited to go back over there and come home 1-0.
Not that any bus ride is now easy, thanks to the schematics of INDOT and decisions of various local governments across central Indiana. But is it harder? Do we do things differently when it's, an hour and 50? Well, it's from Plainfield, so it's not exactly that far, like coming from Brownsburg. But when it's a from a mileage perspective, it's a longer bus ride. Do you guys do anything differently?
No, not really. Like we're not going to get our buses until about 4:30, and that's fine. And that's kind of the status quo of our corporation. And we're all good with that. So once the buses get here, we're going to get on the bus. We're going to drive to beautiful Vigo County, which is beautiful this time of year. I don't know if the game starts at 7 or 7:30. I haven't been told by my uppers, but I do think on the way home, the kids will get an Uncrustable, which is big time.
What flavor?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the big thing.
Awesome. That's what's awesome about high school football. Some of that is just the unknown, and after a win, hopefully it's worth it.
Well, see, because I've got a 2-year-old, and that's a big thing there too, the Uncrustable. So whether it's a 17-year-old kid or a 2-year-old, it's
or 35-year-old.
All right, Coach. Real quick before we let you go, what should people pay attention to Friday night? What's going to decide whether we're on the right side or wrong side of the scoreboard?
Yeah, I really do think we've got to. Each position group in our entire team really has to do their job. The inside linebackers to the receivers to our special teams, everyone's got to be locked in on what we're asking them to do for this week. They don't need to be a Greek god and go out of their mind and do superpower stuff. They just need to be able to, again, assignment, alignment, and execution. I need to know my assignment. I need to know where I need to line up, and I need to go be an athlete. And I can control 2 of those things. I can control my attitude, my effort. The third thing is my God-given talent, which we don't have any control over. So if we can all do that as a team, all 76 of us and 15 coaches, then we've got a great chance to come back on that bus 1-0. But we can't just hope that that's going to happen. We can't just wish that that's going to happen. We've got to go make it happen Monday through Thursday throughout the practice week. So, again, excited to see this team get started and get going, because I think there's a lot of kids that have worked their butts off for almost 12 months. And for them to get the opportunity to go play high school football in front of their families, in front of their peers in their school, that makes me really proud and excited to see that, but also I know that they're chopping out the bit to get it going. So we're all excited, but we all got some work to do.
All right, let's again thank our sponsors that make Plainfield football broadcast possible this fall, both the coaches show and the broadcast on Friday night. Frigid Frog, New Wave Solutions, Gunnell Financial, Crone Family Construction, Adrenaline Fundraising, Crest Point Real Estate, Real Estate Coach P, Chris Pearson, Sell with Jones, the Stewart Home Group, Remax Centerstone, Julia Burbridge, Flora Brothers Painting, I-70 Wrecker Service and Garage, Units Moving and Portable Storage, Haynes Roofing and Remodeling LLC, Headquarters Barbershop, Edward Jones, Chris Hoskins, Ellison Associates, BGW Construction, and Legacy Motorsports. Coach, we always try to wrap up our shows with this, and we're on another season. Season 18. This is our 18th year broadcasting Plainfield football. Who are somebody or someone singular or plural behind the scenes that make Plainfield football what it is, but don't always get the publicity they deserve?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. This could be, you could go anywhere with this answer, especially from summer going into football season. But a lot of it is our coaches, our senior athletes, our captains, our underclassmen players, all of the parents that are involved with our quarterback club or dropping their kid off for football. I think it honestly does take a village. You've got to have some support from the coaching staff. You got to have belief from your senior group. And I think we do. You got to have motivation from our underclassmen, from sophomores and juniors. The parents have to be bought in, which they have been. Our parents are great. Our quarterback club's great. Our admin team from Mr. Schweinekamp, our principal, to Mr. Rodkey, our athletic director. All that is really good, and it makes my job a little bit easier. Our coaches and their families, my family, my wife, and my two boys, my mom and dad, a lot of things that are behind the scenes that really make what we do possible. So it's probably a combination of everybody just really, I think, buying in and being supportive of what we're trying to do and making sure that we give a 14 to 18-year-old kid the best high school football experience possible. And whether that's trying to feed them on away games after the game or having a Thursday night meal in the team room, I think those things is what kids are going to remember, 10, 15, 25 years from now when they think of high school football. I wanted them to think of, I had the best experience possible. Yes, we won some games, but, going back to the core of it, we made some lifelong friendships along the way.
And don't forget the Uncrustables. Don't forget the Uncrustables. Coach, let's get a big win on Friday night. We'll be cheering for you. Look forward to talking to you next week, hopefully about a 1-0 squad.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.